Hey guys, and welcome back to Cypher Gaming. Cypher here with part 2 of web dev, which is web development for short. Last time I left off, I left you guys with this. The basic structure for a web page and how to set up our select box. And we did some basic CSS stuff to get that all set up, but since then I got a lot of work done on it, if you can't tell. Coded a lot of stuff, did a lot of JavaScript stuff as well, and I figured I would go through today and explain what I had changed, what each of it means, what the JavaScript does, and what the CSS looks like at the end. And we actually have to apply some of the CSS to the other divs and stuff, some of the other items as well. So we'll start from the top. So as I said before, we have the HTML, which is everything's wrapped in. We have the header. I added some things. I added some I added the Jquery library so I could utilize a bunch of stuff from there. Jquery is just it's a library of JavaScript. It's the same thing as JavaScript, except it shortens a lot of things. It makes things a lot easier to call and to do. So, and I'll get into that when we get down to this this JavaScript stuff. But let me blow this up for you so you guys can read what I'm actually trying to show you here. Then I also added in a widget, which is called PQ Select, which is going to handle our single select box down below. And then what we're doing is we're linking the style sheet for that, and we're also linking the JavaScript, a third-party JavaScript script that the developer of PQ Select created. After that, we have our QPI functionality dependencies, which is the company's functional dependencies, which I had created myself, which is the JavaScript file here, and as well as my CSS file. After that, I included a Jquery Ui theme, which changes the way buttons look and changes the way that this single select will look. So on to the JavaScript. Document.ready means that it's going to make sure that the whole document is loaded prior to the function firing, because if the function fires before the web page is loaded, it won't function properly. So what this function does is that it initializes the PQ Select widget. So that means it's going to look for this class name under this specific function, and it's going to say, okay, single placeholder, name it single select equation, and it's going to give us radio buttons. After that, I have toggle equation inputs, and I will show you what that means in a second here. Let me run this in Chrome, and I will pop this here. What that means, what the toggle equations means, is that when I select this, it's going to give me the appropriate equation. And when I select this one, it's going to change it. See, the CSS is different, and we'll get to that later in this video. But for right now, that's what that looks like. It says if the value is equivalent to the string of 1. So now, down here at the bottom, we have in our options, value 1. It's going to say, okay, look for these value numbers and then attribute them to a name, and it's also going to attribute a class, an ID of one of the 7 functions or one of the 7 areas I have listed below. Now there's 7 functions and I have 7 listed below, and there's also 7 of these. And then as you can see that this staggered round is going to show, and it's going to hide the rest of them. So what that does is what I just showed you before, where right now I'm on Staggered Center. If I want to see hexagon, it's going to hide Staggered Center. It's going to hide the rest of these, and it's only going to show me hexagon. And so that's what that does. That's all it does. Is it goes through and hides everything else but the one you want to look at, which makes it easier for us and much nicer looking to go through. After that, we have the scripts ended, and that is only for on-page load scripts. Anything else after that, any of the calculations that we'll do down here, we will do in our external JavaScript file, which I'll explain as I go through. but I'm only going to explain one of them because they're all the same. They're all identical. So we'll go through this first example here called Staggered Center, and we'll just do that. So here we have the div for the Staggered Center, and it goes all the way down to here. Let's see if I can get that all on one screen. Okay, so here's the div we're looking at, and what a div does is it separates a section on the table. I mean, not on the table, on the page, and says put stuff here. That's all it does. But I added a style tag that says, okay, give it a margin of 20 pixels, which adds 20 pixels around the entire border of this box. Display none means it's not going to show up unless I tell it to, which is what this does up here. Now, after that, I gave it an ID of Staggered Center, which again, IDs are represented by hashtag symbols or by the pound symbol, and it'll be shown based on the ID here. And then I gave it an ID number. Where'd it go? I'm sorry, I gave it a class called equation selector, which in the CSS file will give us what the styling of that box will look like. So this image here, I said, okay, here's a class of images, and it's going to display the image, and then we're gonna put a break in there after to put a space after the image, and then it's gonna bump it down. After that, I had made a table. This is what a table input looks like. You need the table tag as well as table row and table data. The table data goes from top to bottom. So say, for example, if you have, let's put Cypher gaming, and I'm age 22. Oh shit, I forgot my scenes did that. So Cypher gaming, age 22. If I wanted to display that in order from left to right, it would go, Cypher gaming would go here. Cypher would go here. Gaming would go in this table, and then I'd have a third table data for 22, and that would put everything in order. So to show you what I mean, if we go into this thing here and we go to Staggered Center, it's going to go diameter, and then it's going to give us our text box. I'll zoom in on this so it's easier to see. It's going to give us this text box, and it's going to do it in order from left to right. Now, reset to default. Now back to the code. And again, I did it for the center and for the open area and the holes per square inch. Now, if we go and look at this image, is it going to actually bring it up? Probably not. I'll show it here. See this image here? We'll zoom in on it. This is the equation that we were given for this one thing. What it is we have to take the diameter squared multiplied by the constant of 90.69, and then we have to divide it by the distance between centers, and that gives us the percentage of open area, and that gives us a percentage. So the two inputs for this are going to be diameter and center. It's going to calculate the open area percentage, and it's also going to calculate the holes per square inch. And I'll show you what that does here in a second. Now, and then I did an output table as well for the outputs of holes per square inch and open area. And then at the bottom here, as you can see, I added a button, gave it a class, and the UI tags needed to make it look the way it does. It's a submit type button. It gives a value of calculate, and it's gonna fire the function stagsend. Now, stagsend is gonna be in the JavaScript function here in my QPI javascript.js. Now here's my function called stagsend. I'll zoom out just a little bit so we can see more of it. At the top here, I name the function a unique name so that it doesn't get called more than once. And then I go through and say, here's our variables. And what parse float does is it says, okay, it's going to take whatever value 1 is and make it a floating point number, which means it's going to make it a decimal number. And then we're getting the document. We're going to look in the document, which is this file here, for the element by ID of value 1. So value 1 in correspondent to this is going to be here. it's going to be our diameter. Our diameter is value 1. And then it's going to get the value of that. And same thing, it's going to do the same thing with value 2. Now, answer D and answer DI. Answer D is going to be the holes per the open area percentage, and the holes per square inch is going to be answer DI. And then I have some logic here to dictate what this does. So I'm doing some error checking here, saying if value 1 is not a number, whether it be a letter, a space, a combination of letters and numbers, it'll alert the person to enter a number, and it does the same thing with value 2. I also say if value 1 is equal to 0, enter a diameter value. So I also say if they don't enter anything at all and hit calculate, they need a diameter. They need a value in there to continue. After that, I say, okay, try this. If value 2 is less than value 1, so if the diameter is less than the center, throw an error message saying the diameter cannot be greater than the center. We're gonna catch E, and then we're gonna alert E. So this is what E is, and then it's gonna catch it, and if it's wrong, if it's false, it's gonna alert it. Now down here we actually do the calculation, and this I'm gonna zoom in on so it's easier to see, because it gets kind of crazy with all the parentheses. But what this is answer D, like I said before, is the percentage. The holes per square inch. Now, I'm going to move my camera here a little bit, and I'm going to write this equation out on the board. So, that's not going to work. I'm going to cut that out. So what that is what I had shown previously. This here is this function. It's multiplying the diameter twice. Then it's multiplying that by 90.69, and it's dividing it by the distance between centers squared. And that gives us this equation here. So it's going to say value 1 times value 1. So that's d squared times the constant of 90.69. That whole thing right up to this parenthesis here, divided by this value, so by c squared, gives us the percentage. Now what I had to do, and what one of the requirements was that I had to do this to the 4th decimal place. And since answer D up here is being returned as a string, I had to convert it to a number. And a string just means text. It just means anything in quotes is a string. So you can have numbers in a string, but it won't recognize it as a number. You can't do calculations on it. You can't round it. You can't do anything like that. So I had to take the value and make it into a floating point number. And then I had to say, okay, then fix the decimal points to the 4th decimal place, or the 10,000ths. I'm not 100% sure. I don't remember. But it's going to fix it to the 4th decimal place. So it's going to do as many whole digits as necessary, and then it's going to say 4 decimal places. And that's what this does as well. And so that satisfies our requirement. So to show a working example of this, let me refresh this so the sizing is all correct. So staggered center. So if we have a diameter of 1 and a center of 2, and and a center of 2, and hit calculate, it's going to give us the percentage of open area. So there's 22% open area on that sheet of metal, and then the holes per square inch is going to be 0.2 holes per square inch. Now back in our logic, let's take a look here. The diameter cannot be greater than the center. So let's test that out, make sure that works properly. So the diameter cannot be greater than the center. If this is 3 and it's so let me use my numbers up here. So if 3 is greater than 2, the diameter cannot be greater than the center. It displays it right up there. Now, if I put A in here, it's going to say enter a number. Okay, and it's going to say these are not numbers anymore. NaN stands for not a number. Now, if I say 1 and put a B in there, it's going to do enter a number. It doesn't work. Now, if I do B1, enter a number. It's not working. Now, if I do 1B1, it calculates. It's not actually reading into the number, and that's something I have to work on. If And I wanted to demonstrate this example strictly because it reads the first number, and that's it. It skips right over this. That's not that's technically not there. See, it gives us the same number for you to say 1 and 1. So that is, and this is what our UI is going to look like. It's going to do perforation calculator with a gray drop down, very minimalistic, very, very classy. You can also type in here to say, okay, round. I only want to see round equations. Okay, I don't want to see that. I want to see all the ones with square in it. Okay, so let's do 45. And that lets us search. Also, if you click on one of these and you're like, I don't want that anymore, you can exit out of it and it'll just say select another equation and you can pick one. So between now and the next video I make of this, the CSS will be all prettied up. We'll go through it, check all the error, check all the logic again. This is what each one's going to look like. It's going to be diameter and holes per area here. Calculate's going to be in the bottom right, and then the image is going to be displayed on the top here. Now those are as big as the images get. That's how big they were when they were given to me. So that's what I decided to work with. If you guys have any questions, feel free to post them in the comments below. Send me a message. I'm more than happy to help. If you're interested or if you're interested in coding and you want to know more and you want to know how to get into it, let me know. I could push you in the right direction. Another thing, if you have suggestions on my code to say, hey, this would be better or do this instead, feel free to put it in the comments or send me a message again. I'm not the best in the world at this. It's what I do on a daily basis, and this is what I know best. So yeah, I don't know everything. Of course, I might have missed something. There might be a function out there that I don't know about. Feel free to post it in the comments. I love to hear that kind of stuff, and I love to share my passions with you guys. So thanks again, guys. Make sure to drop a like and subscribe to become a variant today, and I will see all of you in the next video.